All right, you're live now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversation with Sam. So, this week, our topic will be the new economy. We'll explore how technology, innovation, and shifting of the global dynamics is affecting the economic landscape for the future. Sam, sir, will also take us through his journey, his insights across industries and governments while unpacking the new economy, what it means to the India's youth, entrepreneurs, and our future leaders. So bring in your questions, your ideas at the end of the session. Let's learn and unlearn and reimagine together. So I now request Sam sir to address our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Premvada. Thank you, Upendra. You're always in the background, but I know the kind of work you do. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. We had last week conversation on Gandhi with Sudarshan Bhai Iyengar. And then this week, we are shifting gear and talking about economy. Upendra and I spoke a little bit, and we realized that because of what is going on globally in terms of tariff, war, confusion, conflicts, there is a lot of global attention on economy at this stage. Every day there is some news about tariff going up by 50%, coming down by 25%, and markets go up and down. Millions and billions, sometimes trillions, get lost or made in a day or two. So we are living in a very volatile time. Economy affects everybody because ultimately it affects inflation, it affects jobs, it affects cost of money, and ultimately it affects your pocket, your budget. Today, globally, we are in a crisis of confidence, crisis of sort of trust, and consistent policy framework. Business always likes some level of consistency and predictability. Today, we cannot predict what will happen next. So let's first talk a little bit about how we got here. Then we can talk a little bit about how we move forward and what everyone is talking about from different perspectives. I don't think there are simple answers. I don't have an answer. What works in one place doesn't work in the other. What works in one country doesn't work in the other country. What works in one industry doesn't work in the other industry. So there are no simple, hard and fast rules and regulations that everybody could follow. And this is a fundamental message of the day. So let's see how we got here. First of all, we all agree that free market economy is in tune with the democratic values to empower people, distribute wealth equitably, give equal opportunities to everyone, and let the buyer and seller decide ultimately the rule of the game. But I wish it was that simple. So government has to intervene with monetary policies, with industrial policies, with labor policies, And there are all kinds of complicated issues that play in putting national economy together. After decolonization, many countries with independence started taking control of their own economy. During colonization, economy was controlled predominantly from Europe and America. England, with control over most of the countries in Africa, Asia, South Asia, India, and all that, really called the shot. They decided the prices, they decided the trade, they decided what will be exported, imported. A classical example would be opium war in China. Another classical example would be the railway network that was set up in India to move opium. So everything was really dictated by the colonial masters as to how the economy would play. In the process, colonies got very little in return. India was the one of the largest economies in the world before British came in. I'm told it was almost 25%, 27% in 1760 or something. And then when British left, it was 2% of the global economy. So you can see how colonies were basically looted. But if you say that, it's out of fashion. People react. But the reality is known to everyone. There are all kinds of estimates on how much money, how much money England took out of India. There are studies, it goes in trillions, but that's history. And we have to accept it as it was and move forward. But by accepting, we are not saying we agree with it. So after independence, after decolonization, America was the only strong economy. And after World War, America took charge in building Europe, Japan, and America became the financial leader with World Bank, IMF, all of that. And dollar became the ultimate currency. Western world thought that all of the countries coming out of colonization would take long time to acquire technology, build energy infrastructure, logistics, and they will never catch up. Until Nixon went out, made a deal with China, and China was admitted to WTO. Americans saw Chinese labor as a great cost saving to offer cheaper products to American consumers. And Chinese political system allowed to line up hundreds of thousands of laborers from rural areas, put them in bunker, and let them work for 8, 10 hours, 15 hours a day, not even give them vacation, not give them all the benefits, at times even use labor in prison, and facilitated desire of the American industry to reduce cost. If Chinese had a democratic system, I don't think it would have been possible. I can tell you from my personal example. During Manmohan Singh's time, I had a meeting in Silicon Valley with all of the top US industries, IBM, Google, Foxconn, Nike, and everyone. And someone from Nike said that, Mr. Pitroda, we can move production to Kutch because that port is very close to Middle East, and we can address all Middle East market from India as opposed to from China, because it takes long route to get product from China to Middle East. But we need 20 to 30,000 people in one city working. Will you take the responsibility as a government? And I said, no, we cannot guarantee that. We can try, we can help, because it's a democracy. But we can't take a stick and line up 30,000 people and say, live in bunkers and work and leave your families. It just won't work in India. So the political system in China allowed labor to be mobilized. And Chinese, with their very strong interest in localization, indigenization, did not allow foreign companies to come in, whether it is Facebook or Google or Amazon or whatever. They copied things well in auto industry and all of a sudden, you realize that Chinese products are as good as Western products. They are very cost competitive, and they have acquired technology, trade, marketing skills, and all of it. And then all of a sudden, US wakes up that we have no jobs. Western world wakes up that we don't produce anything. India wakes up that everything comes from China. I have seen Ganpati statue from China. I have seen saris from China. I've seen all kinds of festival toys from China, Indian festivals. So this has created a whole new mindset about how to curtail China. And all of a sudden, China becomes enemy of the US because they have taken jobs away. They have mastered auto industry, clothing, consumer, machining, you name it. And this is the cause of present trade war. There is a relationship between capitalism and democracy. I have two books in the back, you can see. One is on democracy, the darker cover, and the lighter cover is on redesign the world. In the book on democracy, I have a chapter on capitalism and democracy worth reading. It's an overview, it's not a scholarly piece. Similarly, there is an article in the Redesign the World book on new economy. Again, it's an overview worth reading to put things in perspective. So today, everyone is searching for new economy model because most of the jobs have moved to China, manufacturing. Coupled with that, the threat from AI on white collar jobs, threat from robots on manufacturing and blue collar jobs paint a very bleak picture for the future labor force. People don't know where the jobs are going to come from. I mean, you can look at a lot of areas. Take, for example, self-driven car. Self-driven car will get millions of truck drivers' jobs out. Millions of drivers in developing countries, especially, will have no work. You won't have parking lots. You won't have to worry about driver's license. You won't have to ultimately worry about traffic lights. I mean, just one technology like that would have huge impact on infrastructure, jobs, policies, resources. It's mind-boggling. I see on and off some robots cooking at home, cleaning at home, and all that. So every manual job conceivably can be taken over by robot, and every white collar job for accountants, lawyers, office workers can be taken over by AI. And I'm telling you, AI does a pretty good job. You'll be surprised. So in that kind of an environment, what are the new jobs? What do we do? I think these are the questions we are all asking. So the pressure on new economy or finding a new way to deal with this is very high. I don't think we have answers. But there are a lot of ideas. We need experiments. We need new learning. Ultimately, we need to give dignity to labor. We need to give people something meaningful to do. And a lot of this has to do with how we restructure global economy. I'll give you two simple examples. Yesterday, uh, while my wife was doing something, I normally don't watch TV. I started switching channels and saw something on Al Jazeera. And I got hooked. And I watched this for about 40 minutes. It was about cocoa in Ivory Coast. Very interesting program. It says that the cocoa grown in Ivory Coast ultimately gets sold to multi-billion dollar company called Cargill. And then Cargill sells it to Nestle's and others to make chocolates for all of us. And there's a big conference they show in Switzerland on chocolate. Pretty fancy, um, very rich people, glitter with jewelries and, you know, dining and wining and all that stuff. And then when you look at how cocoa is produced, they are destroying jungles in Ivory Coast. Child labor is used. Children are sold for $300 for 2 years completely, no salary, nothing. They give $300 to their parents for 2 years of slavery. And it's pathetic. You can cry looking at that program, how children are treated and how they are behaving, and poor little kids, you know, 10-year, 15-year-old, 12-year-old are working 12 hours a day. Now, this is one piece of the free economy. This is one piece of the exploitation. Similar exploitations are there in mining industry, where local people who do mining get very little, and the rich and famous glitter with gold, living in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of homes, get all the cream. And this has been going on for too long. Earlier, it was exploitation by colonial masters. Now there is exploitation by local rich people who are in cahoot or in link or in partnership with global rich to exploit. I know several people, I am sorry to say that, and I don't want to say this too loud in public, but friends of mine who live in London and exploit all kinds of minings in India. Okay. And they have very little social consciousness. They're good people, they mean well, but they don't get the larger picture, and their ability to give is very little. Their ability to take is very strong. So, cocoa example is one example, and there are many, many examples like that in the industry, whether it is copper mining, iron ore, bauxite, production, you name it, wood. And there is another example, and I don't want to take all the credit, where we decided how we are going to do telecom in India. At that point in time, telecom technology was available only in the Western world. This is 45 years ago. India had no technology, developing world had no technology. We were using crossbar switches, and luck would have it that I had some experience in the US in digital technology, and I said, we are going to develop digital technology. The resistance from multinationals was so much that multinationals wrote to Prime Minister that this guy is a fraud. He cannot deliver. Indira Gandhi got those letters. Rajiv Gandhi got those letters because we were going to do something that was very different. Rather than centralized switch, we're going to develop rural exchange. We're going to focus on indigenous development, local talent, local conditions, looking at temperature and humidity in India, because we have 6,500 kilometers of ocean front, so we have to have very high humidity product which can stand salty environment, heat and dust. We even had to design for lizards in our electronics hardware. Believe me, this was totally new way of looking at it. Nobody believed it could be done. Against all the odds, with the political will and young talent in India, we could deliver and transform telecom and IT in India. That story has not been told properly. We have forgotten all that. But every idea then was a new idea. Idea about how to bring C++ 45 years ago, how to bring Unix 45 years ago, microprocessors from Motorola, Intel, bring 30, 40 young kids to Chicago, train them, send them to various companies to expose them to environment here. Kids who had never been out of small little village in India, but they had studied electronics. That's the kind of effort it takes when you want to build new economy. So new economy that people talk about today is basically about decentralization. Friend of ours, Arun Maira, writes a great deal. He was in the Planning Commission. He was also head of, I believe, Boston Consulting in India. And he, along with many, the earlier champion of indigenous development was Rajni Kothari, the head of the Center for Studying Developing Societies. He used to run a magazine called Alternative 50 years ago. I have some copies of it. And Rajni would come and talk about these things in the US and Europe. You know, Schumacher's idea, small is beautiful. Okay. The basic idea is one, to focus on fundamental needs, which really relates to food, water, energy, shelter, clothing, education, and home. And health. These basic needs are so very fundamental. But today, the tomato that I eat in America on an average travels 1400 miles before it gets to my table. Can you believe that? I don't eat local tomato. Now, this is the kind of system we have created, that we don't eat local food, we don't wear local clothes, we don't create jobs for the local people. Why? Because we can get it 10% cheaper, 5% better quality. So, Gandhiji's model of decentralization, localization, and at the same time globalization is what new economy needs to search. For example, there are 700 districts in India with diverse climate, culture, language, people, needs, clothing, customs, race, religion, food, you name it. Everything is different to some extent. So, why can't food be created locally, clothing created locally, and a lot of these stuff that you need on a day to day basis can be produced locally? Why can't 700 districts be seen as 700 different communities trying to be self sufficient to provide jobs? Why do you have to have same salary for all teachers? Teachers in Assam may get a different salary than probably teacher in Mumbai or somewhere else, as an example. Or clothing may cost different, or tomato prices may be different. The idea is to really think through this combination of localization and globalization. Everything cannot be localized. Every district cannot make microchip. Every district cannot make smartphone. Okay. So you have to create a scenario in which decentralization, localization, local job creation has to be at the core of the restructuring, around which there has to be localization and globalization woven together. In between comes nationalization. So you have localization, nationalization, and globalization. I always say that if you really want to understand the best health system for Indian states, you don't have to go abroad. You go to Kerala. You go to Kerala and learn. But nobody wants to go to Kerala to learn. They want to come to America and Europe to learn because it becomes a junket. Kerala has the answers. So you might find that local pockets may have answer to what you're looking for right in your country before you think to look outside. So you have localization, nationalization, and then globalization. Very few people talk about nationalization. It doesn't mean nationalizing industry. So the key is to really create local jobs, but at the same time use most modern technology available to solve the problem. Technology is a tool. The question is, what problem are you trying to solve? One of my favorite comments is about the fact that the best brains in the world are working to solve the problems of the rich, who really don't have problems to solve. As a result, problems of the poor really don't get the right talent. So you have to use AI to solve the problems of the poor: education, health, housing, next level of jobs. So you don't optimize AI algorithm just for cost reduction, but you optimize algorithm for human development. It's not easy to do. Believe me, nobody's doing it and nobody wants to do it. Okay. So, in creating new economy, there are a lot of unanswered questions. But the key, I'm convinced, is all about shifting the direction. Shifting direction from centralization to decentralization, globalization to localization, nationalization, and then globalization. Creating jobs for local people to grow local food, local shelter. Housing industry is one industry which will create massive amount of jobs. And it will go on. It will never get done because you got to upgrade housing. People has to have dream to improve their housing from 2 bedroom to 3 bedroom to better furniture to whatever. So how do we create local jobs in the housing industry, which are cheaper to create? How do you teach people to grow their local food? You can still import if you want fancy cheese. That's okay. But you don't have to import potato, onion, banana, tomatoes, all kinds of local things. Okay, fruits, clothing. I don't understand why we don't do more khadi. Because for India's climate, khadi is the best cotton clothing. But we'll get fancy nylon shirt. In my generation, that was the upward mobility to buy a nylon shirt 60 years ago and not wear comfortable khadi. Why can't there be a movement in India where every student in India would wear only khadi jean and khadi kurta? Well, look at the market you will create. So it may be a little, 5, 10, 15 rupees more expensive. But the jobs you will create, and ultimately those people will create other jobs and all that. Okay. So there are a lot of unanswered questions. This conversation cannot be finished in one session. But I think we can at least begin this conversation by saying we got to think out of the box. We got to innovate. We got to be creative. We got to learn what we have learned, like Premvada said earlier. We got to learn new things. We got to revisit Gandhi. We got to revisit Khadi. We got to revisit our values. We got to relook at labor laws. In India, it's too complicated to start a company. Why would anybody start a business in India with the kind of roadblocks you have? And we think we have simplified the process. You don't know what simplification is. Let me tell you, I probably have started 20 companies in America, never visited a government office in my life. Don't even know what it looks like for work. In India, I have to fill in so many forms and this and that. It's just hassle. And anybody can come and stop and investigate and check and recheck, and there'll be income tax raid, and ultimately they'll say, oh, money laundering. Finish, you're done. The harassment is too much. And people think it's okay, they'll live with it, saying, oh, it's government, maa baap sarkar. Okay. And they lie, they cheat, they manipulate, they put innocent people under screen, and you expect jobs to be created. So I think this new economy is a much broader conversation. I hope we do a series on different topics and maybe even invite some people like Arun and others if they could join us and talk more about it. But with this, I want to stop here because it's already almost 35 minutes. I thought I'll talk for 20 minutes. Uh, but I can tell you, personally, I can talk for another 36 hours on this. Okay. Not that I'll always make sense, but at least you will see my emotions and frustrations, hope and aspirations on new economy. Thank you. Priyambada, Upendra, let's open up for a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is a question about, like, it's related to economy, like the glaring question about the current caste census in India. So, so Bhupendra is asking, how do you think this will, help the extremely backward class of Bihar Thakurs? Like, as you said, we need to be inclusive if we need a
I think
strong economy.
the whole idea of the caste census is to really get better data. We need better information saying what is the reality on the ground. Today, I don't think we have good data. And good data is the starting point for good planning. Not that once you have census, you'll be able to provide jobs to everybody, but you'll open up opportunities. You'll make people aware that very few people from the lower level communities get to participate in administration, judiciary, education, high level health jobs, and you'll go look around and see it. I can tell you in my own cases, and I hate to use this example. I come from OBC. I'm a son of a carpenter. I'm proud to be one. And I was the first one to get college degree. And I'm telling you, it was a battle in the family to send my sisters to college because the environment everywhere in the family was that girls studied up to high school, that's good enough. We had to fight, in a sense, to take all our sisters, and I have five sisters, bring all of them here to America, put all of them through college. I have a sister who has a degree in mathematics, master's. I have a sister who is a pharmacist. I have a sister who is an economist. Education empowered us. And that's what this census will do. Give us better data. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. There's a question from Rajesh Kem Kempegowda ji. He's asking, capitalism is still holds with moderate socialism. So do we need a new model? Uh,
I don't like to really get trapped in these terminologies. Okay, of course I understand that that's how we define things. I would say that we need to develop new economic model which lifts people from the bottom of the pyramid to a respectable standard of living and gives equal opportunity to everybody. Today, what is happening is income is highly concentrated. Profit is only in the hands of very few. And they have created that model. And we have no voice in that model. So you have very rich people, very few, and you have very poor people, lot many more. So that is the cycle we have to break. In the name of free market economy, capitalism, we have created wealth, GDP is high and all that. But for whom? Who is benefiting from all of this? Very few. So you see them wearing, $100 million jewelry. Yesterday, I had a friend who called and he said some guy in Mumbai bought an apartment for 850 crore. I don't know how much of that is true. But who would have 850 crore to buy an apartment? But that's what it takes in Mumbai. I'm told that you need 30, 40 crore to buy a good apartment. Who are these people? Where is this money coming from? How much of it is black market? What is documented? What is not documented? Where did they make the money? You know? So you have one class of people who can throw money around, very few, and you have another class of people who don't have anything to eat. The boys who grow cocoa. And that is the reality in Africa and many emerging markets. And that's what the new economy has to address. It depends on what are you trying to address. If you're trying to address just GDP and make more billionaires, that's a different model. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So there is a question from Bhupesh Patani. I think it's written in Gujarati, but I get a sense of it. Like it's
Sure,
about
sure.
salary, like the cost of the living, according to him, is very high, which
Good.
is,
Well, I'm glad you could read Gujarati.
I mean, I'm just like,
No, you're doing
I'm
good. It's
trying
perfect.
to.
I,
So
because I'm
I think
Gujarati,
he's
I understand.
asking.
દરેક જગ્યાએ અલગ હોવાથી પગારમાં ફરક પડી શકે. It's okay, perfectly all right to have difference in salary. By is teacher in Assam can make less than a teacher in Mumbai. It's perfectly okay because don't look at the absolute number. Look at the purchasing power, cost of living, environment, cost of transport. So you got to look at things differently. Life is not about numbers. Life is about living. And there's a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I have a question. Like,
Yeah.
so recently, like there are reports, like just 3 days before that, India has surpassed Japan in GDP figures, but we don't see inclusive growth. We don't see the development like around us. So what do you think needs to be done to have an inclusive growth where India can actually, the people who are, like myself, like we see the change around us, like we feel that yes, like we are in a developed country. So what do you think?
You
Is
see,
it just
first
the
of all,
numbers?
we must understand what it means to be the fourth largest economy. Don't get too excited. That doesn't mean you are richer than Japan. That's what media would like you to believe. But when you have 1.5 billion people, if you give one more rupee to everybody, it is 1.5 billion rupees more. Okay. So if India was the largest economy in the world, still will be one fifth of the US economy at an individual level. So per capita is the number we should focus on. Okay. So today, if we are the fourth largest economy, how many people got richer? And what happened to per capita? Of course, there's an increase in per capita. But then if you take inflation and all of that into account, the net benefit may not be too much. So the key is not get excited about third largest economy, fourth largest economy, fifth largest economy. No, it's nice. If you're 1.5 billion people, you should be the largest economy, not third or second. Okay, if you have the largest population in the world, you should be the largest economy in the world. Okay, so what's the problem? The point is, who is getting rich? What is happening to the average citizen? Gandhiji and Mandela and Martin Luther Kings and others have said that you are as rich as the average person at the bottom of the economic pyramid. That should be the goal and not create more billionaires. I mean, we get, all excited. We have created 50 more billionaires. Fine, good. I'm happy. But that's not my goal. Okay. Can we lift 50 million people out of poverty? That should be the goal. Can we clean our rivers? Can we clean our air? Okay. Can we clean all our ponds? Can we provide better food, nutrition? Can we provide better health services to our people? Can we make education more affordable? You know, these are the challenges.
Absolutely, sir. There is another question from Amit Sharma. He's asking, can you like share your view on the India-US trade, which is like affecting with the tariffs? Like currently, Trump has increased tariffs on Indian goods.
See, one of the biggest things from which we have benefited in the US is IT. Of course, there are other areas of trade and all. But we do almost $200 billion worth of export of IT services. And a lot of it is from US, not all of it. Okay. So that is going to get affected very soon with AI. So we got to find a way to really address that. And I'm sure we have talented people who are already looking at it. You know, we also import fair amount of defense equipment from US. We need to address that too. Okay. But every country is spending too much on military hardware. So India US trade will continue. Trump and his government will decide, along with Indian government, the tariff policies. And once that is decided, there'll be little more clarity. Until then, confusion will prevail. Okay. And there are also issues of visa and all that for a lot of the IT workers. So it is in state of flux right now. Hi Nagendra. Rajneesh Kothari's theory of criminalization of politics has inspired extensive research in the field. Recently, many central universities have come under the influence of unqualified individuals, leading to a decline in academic standards and the erosion of environment necessary for scholarly excellence. I agree, Nagendra, that quality of teachers is very important, and we haven't paid much attention. The other day I was talking to some friends about converting teachers to mentors. In the age of AI, we don't need teachers as we see them today. We need mentors. But none of our teachers, even in the US, are trained to be mentors. So, how do you train somebody who is teaching to mentoring? Who is doing that? How do you do that? Okay. Because teacher today comes with set of notes, goes on the board and, delivers facts. I don't need him to deliver facts. I remember when I was a student in Baroda, I used to have one professor, and he used to take great pride that his notes have not changed for 30 years, which I thought was pretty bad. Okay, that his notes have not kept up with the recent developments, but he took pride in it. Okay. So, is that the kind of teacher we want? Okay, who keeps teaching same thing over and over and over again, or someone who takes pause and says, "Wait a minute, what has changed? Where are we? How should we do it?" So I agree with Nagendra that quality of teachers have gone down. When University of Chicago wanted to set up a campus in India during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time, President had come to Delhi. We met in my office, and my request to him was, if you can set up a center to train teachers, not students, we need to retrain our teachers in a big way. And we need more social science because a lot of our people who graduate from science and college degrees have very little understanding of economy, psychology, sociology, philosophy, anthropology. All these things are very important at work because if you don't get those things, it is hard for you to be a team player. So I told the president, I said, look, my request would be to see how we can train teachers. And he also agreed to some extent. And University of Chicago decided to set up a campus in Delhi to train teachers and done very well. And India has benefited from it, you know. So
Absolutely, sir. Sir, before we end, I will just take a couple of more questions.
Please.
So Kisle is he's a big
Yes, I know
company.
this well.
Yeah. So he's just talking about the bribes that are taken in India, and the low level like corruption. There is lack of jobs as well, and also complete failure of basically the machinery. So your comments on that at policy level, basically.
My first comment is agree. Okay. Uh, but corruption is everywhere. Don't be under impression that the corruption is only in India. It has become a way of life, especially in last 30, 40 years. Morals have come down. Ethics in business is a big issue. And people like shortcuts to make money. Okay. That's a way of life. You know what happened after Trump's visit to Middle East, how people perceive that in terms of how to utilize your power to benefit your family. We don't know the details, but people believe that that's not right for the head of the state. So it's not that corruption is only in India. Okay. But Indian corruption affects everybody because it's at low level. Okay, so you want to get a birth certificate, there is a corruption. You want to get a driver's license, there is corruption. That you don't have in many parts of the world. Okay. So corruption is there. Problems are all known. I always say that solutions are also known. Where are the men and women with courage to go implement those? Because to implement those requires a lot of sacrifice. Okay. And it's a thankless job. Nobody pays attention. Nobody cares. You know, I mean, I have spent my life on improving telecom in India. That's what it takes. In the process, the personal loss is unreal. Nobody cares about that. Why should anybody care? That's not their problem. That's my problem. Okay. But you look at the condition of the family, children, wife, your personal, you know, sacrifice, wealth, it all gets affected. But that's what it takes. You find 100,000, 10,000 people like that, and you'll make a difference. But nobody wants to give. Everybody wants to take. I would have all kinds of people come to me, especially when I was in position of power in India, and say, "Sir, I want to do this, I want to do that." And I said, "Okay, go do it." First thing he would ask is, "What is my designation? Will I get a car? Will I get a house? Okay, what's my salary grade?" You're finished. I said, "That's not what we talked about. We talked about you're doing good things, so you got to sacrifice." No, no, I can't do that. Okay, then you can't do anything. Okay. It's like Gandhiji. Gandhiji came in and didn't say that what is my designation, what is my salary, where would I live, you know, do I get a servant, do I get a car? I want to get independence. Now get me a designation. No, that's not how it works. Okay.
Absolutely, sir. What we are lacking is just the spirit and the courage right now. There is a question, like a comment from Sangeet Kumar. He's asking, like, could we look at a model where we empower the underprivileged through an inclusive education system where they will be learning with the privileged children, because there is a lot of gap in India with the those people who have everything and with those who don't have even the right to education. So just your comment
I
before.
have a very different view on this, okay, which is pretty radical. Okay, and you don't have to agree with it. I don't think you need anything today to educate yourself beyond a point. Okay. You really need three things which comes from within. One is motivation. I got to be motivated to learn. If I'm not motivated to learn, no amount of giving me opportunity in college and schools will work. Two, I need to spend time. If I want to learn something, I need to devote time. It takes time to learn. You don't learn things instantly. If I have to learn good math, matrices, trigonometry, I got to spend time. I can't say, okay, in 2 hours I want to learn trigonometry. Forget it. Third, you need content. Today, content is available to learn everything on internet. If I had a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop, the whole universe is open to me. I can take a course at MIT. I can take a course at Harvard. I don't have to blame anybody. I don't have to say, oh, you didn't give me opportunity. No, you didn't take opportunity. Okay. So today, this question has a different meaning than it had 10, 20 years ago. Okay. Are you really motivated in learning or to learn? Are you willing to devote enough time to learn? Then you decide what you want to learn, and it's available on internet. Go explore. I assume that you learn how to read and write and some basic skills you have. If you don't have that, get those first on internet. You know. But the bottom line is motivation and time. Most of the people are not motivated to learn. Most of the people don't want to spend time. They want quick fixes. I mean, look at the kids who go to college and cheat on exam. Okay. I mean, how could you be a medical doctor by cheating? Okay? But people do that. Okay. So how many people have paid tuition, but they don't learn because they just want degree? Okay. I mean, people with degree can barely comprehend a paragraph. What kind of education is that? Okay. So if I have to educate myself, I must take responsibility. And it's not my school, it's not tuition, it's not my parents, it's not fees. Okay. Forget it. Am I motivated to learn? Whatever that I want to learn. Do I want to learn about how to make wine? It's okay. Do you want to learn about how to use tools for welding? It's okay. You know, just go find it and you will learn. Practice it. But we are very quick to blame the system. The blame starts here. I am the problem. System is not the problem. System is given, whatever it is. Of course, it has problems. Every system has problem. Okay. But don't blame somebody else for your problems. I have a guy right now who is constantly telling me on LinkedIn and whatever, saying, "Sir, I'm broke. I'm this. I have no job. Society has rejected me. My parents don't talk to me. My brother don't talk to me. Help me, help me." I said, "What do you want me to do? Tell me what you want me to do." Only person who can help you is you. But you don't want to accept that. You want somebody to come and give him, he wants somebody to come and give him 50 lakh rupees to fix his life. Okay. Nobody's going to do that. Why should anybody do that? You have created a mess, you fix it. Not willing to accept that. Okay. So this is part of the problem everywhere. Easy to blame the world.
Absolutely, sir. It's actually most important thing is, like, as they say, charity begins at home. So it's you who is, the person. If you
I
want
am
to
the
make
problem.
change, yes.
I am the problem. I got to fix it. And I make mistakes. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I wish I was, but I'm not. Don't expect that. But I learn. I make mistakes. I move on. You know.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. So we'll continue with these the economy sessions, like, in this series in future as well.
Yeah, we can do
Uh,
that. I'll
yeah,
also
we
try
can
to get
invite
some more
like
friends. Yeah.
guests, as you mentioned earlier.
Thanks.
So thank you for an interactive
Upendra,
session. Thank
Upendra
you.
is in India.
Okay.
Yes.
Everything okay, Upendra?
Oh, absolutely, sir.
Did it go okay?
Uh, no,